You open your eyes before the sun does. Cold air presses against your skin, sharp enough to sting. The fire from last night has burned down to a soft orange pulse, barely breathing. Somewhere beyond the tree line, a bird calls, and the camp begins to stir without a single word spoken. No alarm told you to wake. No calendar decided this day mattered. You simply rose, the way your body always has. There's no job waiting for you, no desk, no deadline, just 12 open hours ahead of you. So what fills them? Now compare that to your morning. An alarm cutting through sleep. A phone already glowing with messages before your feet touch the floor. Coffee brewed fast. Commute timed to the minute. Inbox filling before you've even said good morning to anyone real. We tend to assume this is just how humans are. Wake up, work, repeat. Survival through structure. But most people don't realize how recent this grind actually is. For nearly all of human history, there was no clock demanding your hours. And the evidence for what actually filled those hours might surprise you. Strip away the myth of constant struggle, and a different rhythm appears. For most hunter-gatherers, securing food took roughly 3 to 5 hours a day. Not 8, not 12. Just enough to meet the need, then stop. The rest of the day didn't collapse into idleness. It filled with something we've quietly lost. Hours spent teaching children to track, to weave, to listen. Time spent grooming, storytelling, laughing around a shared fire as the sun dropped low. And yes, rest. Real rest. Naps taken without guilt. Long stretches of simply watching the world move. This wasn't chaos. It was balance, shaped by necessity rather than obligation. Work when needed. Rest when not. No manager measuring your worth by your busyness. Just a rhythm older than any clock we've built. This isn't romantic speculation. The numbers exist, and they're hard to argue with. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Solins introduced a concept that quietly unsettled the academic world. He called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society, not wealthy in possessions, but rich in something arguably more valuable: time. His argument was grounded in fieldwork, not philosophy. Researchers studying the Hadza of Tanzania and the Kungsan of the Kalahari actually followed these groups, stopwatch in hand, measuring how long subsistence genuinely took. What they found was consistent. Foraging adults averaged between 3 and 5 hours of what we'd call productive labor per day. The remaining hours were theirs, completely, unhurriedly theirs. Modern industrial workers average 8 to 10 hours, often more. The comparison isn't subtle. Something fundamental shifted in the human experience, and most of us inherited that shift without ever being asked. So, if survival only demanded a few hours, what did the rest of the time actually build? Everything, it turns out. The cave paintings at Lascaux, the ochre-stained shells found in South African coastal sites, worn as ornamentation 75,000 years ago. The communal fire circles where generations sat close enough to share breath and story. None of this emerged from exhaustion. It emerged from stillness, from hours that belonged to no one but themselves. Leisure wasn't laziness. It was the quiet engine of culture. Relationships deepened around those fires, built resilience that no individual skill could replicate alone. Art signaled identity, memory, and meaning across generations. The time they had wasn't empty. It was the very space where being human actually began to take shape. Then, roughly 10,000 years ago, something changed. Not dramatically, not overnight, but irreversibly. Agriculture arrived, and with it, a completely different relationship between humans and time. Farming demanded consistency in a way hunting never had. Fields couldn't wait. Harvests had windows. Surplus created ownership, and ownership created hierarchy. Suddenly, someone else had a claim on your hours. Roles hardened into permanence. The concept of a job of structured, obligated, recurring labor quietly took root alongside the first crops. 10,000 years sounds ancient, but modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000. That means the life we treat as natural, the schedules, the roles, the relentless productivity, represents barely 3% of our total story. We didn't evolve for this. We simply inherited it. We built machines to save time. Then we filled that time with more work. We created convenience, then invented new obligations to replace the old ones. By nearly every measure, modern humans are more exhausted, more time-starved, and more disconnected from genuine rest than people who owned nothing and scheduled nothing. You have less free time than someone who lived without a single clock. Sit with that for a moment. Maybe progress was never supposed to mean busier. Maybe the most human thing you can do isn't produce, achieve, or optimize. Maybe it's simply exist. Fully. Unhurriedly. Your ancestors had almost nothing, and somehow, they had more time than you do. What does that say about everything you're rushing toward?